Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Thank you for being here today, and a warm welcome to all our panelists and attendees. For those amongst our audience who were not aware that Brewer World had another webinar yesterday, and we spoke about COVID challenges and the way forward for the beer industry. We had some of the very renowned beer business owners yesterday with us, Aman Dal, Rahul Singh, Siddharth Rastogi, Pravesh Pandey, Mr. Nakul Bhosle, Manu Gulati. And we had our favorite Ishan Grover as moderating the event yesterday too. It was a very meaningful discussion, and all the panelists had shared their own views on how the extreme situation is and what is the steps we should take forward to revive this industry, and why beer should not be treated as another alcohol. What are the support which we are looking from the government and things like that. If you have missed that session, please go to our Facebook page and you can see that there. Today, I welcome you to our second webinar, and we are discussing the topic today with some of the top talented brewers of India. From them, we are going to understand what is the impact they are facing, and what are the steps they're taking to, to address the beers which is there on tank, about the flavors. What is that? How we can avoid draining the 6 lakh liters of beer which is there, and many things like that. So let me just move on and introduce our panelist and our moderator, starting with our moderator, Mr. Ishan Grover. He's a brew master, a hospitality professional, and an entrepreneur. He's a founder of Kadak Beer, and he's done his master's in food and beverage science from Heriot-Watt. He's been in the industry for about 10 years and he's set up more than 50 breweries in India. We have Dr. Ashtavinayak Pradhan here. He's co-founder and chief brewer at Goa Brewing. He holds a PhD in brewing, and he also is a qualified tutor for Heriot-Watt University. And he's involved in a lot of activities there, like research, academics, and things like that. He's also very passionate about brewing, and he's experimenting with local flavors and local ingredients. And he likes to do things with non-conformant to modern beers. Sorry. Next is Mr. Thomas Hartman. He is the Vice President, Innovation and Brewing at Bira 91. Thomas, prior to Bira, he was with ABN Bev ZX Venture and was based out of New York City, and he was responsible for new product development. Thomas is developing Bira 91's product innovation pipeline and is constantly working on improving existing brews and creating new ones. With the recently launched tap room in Bangalore, Thomas is working with his team of brewers to experiment with beer styles and brew beers within local ingredients. Let me now invite and welcome Amar Srivastav. Amar Srivastav is a co-founder of Sikera Cider. Amar is also a chief brewing operations at Ministry of Beer. He used to lecture about brewing technology at VSI, India's first brewing institute. He and his team has received multiple awards from best beers to best brewery from different organizations. He also loves creating recipes from local ingredients. My next panelist is Shailendra Bis, co-founder and head of Independence Brewing Company, a very passionate and accomplished craft brewer. He learned how to brew in California, and after spending 12 years there, he returned to India and started India's finest craft brewery. He's a BJCP certified beer judge and has over 12 awards in brewing and from US. His passion is to brew world-class craft beers in India. Amit Mishra, he is a co-founder at Kadak, and also along with Ishan Grover. Amit has 10 years of experience in beer brewing industry and has been head brewer at Windmill Craft Works. He also consults various projects all across India. He's passionate to utilize his knowledge and skills creatively in real-time, dynamic and complex environment, and to contribute towards the development of the beverage industry in areas of quality, research, and education. Welcome Karthik, who's our next panelist. Karthik is currently a consultant head brewer at Yellow Submarine at Brewski in JP Nagar, Bangalore. He's an IT professional and a self-taught brewer. He turned pro 4 years ago. He started his brewing career by heading brewing operations for Brewski, Bangalore, and Geist, Bangalore. Our next panelist is Gautam Gandhi. Gautam Gandhi is a criminal lawyer turned innovative brewer and worked extensively with brewers, raw material, equipments, and brands from India and abroad, and co-founded Pune-based Singularity Beer Project. His approach to brewing is very non-traditional and new world. I think these are our panelists, and I thank everyone for being here. And I now hand over it to our moderator, Ishan.
We haven't got Amit still now. He's still trying to figure out how to enter the panel. But however, we'll just start the whole conversation by the time he gets in. Like we discussed yesterday, from the business perspective, from the owner's perspective, what exactly was the impact of COVID-19 on their businesses? How did it impact their cash flow? But it is very important for all of us to know, for a lot of people who ask us a lot of questions every day. What is how it is actually impacting the brewers from the brewers' perspective? What exactly you feel as a impact for COVID-19? So we'll start from everyone. We have a mix of a panel today. So we have people from like Thomas from Bira, who has a lot of beer in tanks, and Goa Brewing Company, which again is in bottling from the brew pubs. So we would like to understand what exactly is the impact, starting from Ash from Goa Brewing Company. Could you please tell us what is the impact and what is the status right now?
Yeah. So good afternoon, everybody. So we actually at the moment have almost 25 to 30,000 liters of beer, which is lying in our tank. At the same time, we also have a considerable amount of beer which has been bottled. And we were about to ship took one consignment to Mumbai and another one to Bangalore. But before that, this lockdown has happened. So when we came to know lockdown is going to start, so what we have done was like abandon all the packaging operations. Whatever beer was there is at the moment kept in a cold storage. We at the moment are worried about the beer which is already there in KSBCL go downs, because over there is no facility of keeping the beers into cold storage. And also like as we are going to be losing almost 2 to 3 months now, it's okay with the beer, but like the date of expiry, which is like 6 months for all of our beer, so that might be an another issue. Hello. Yeah.
So Ash, I wanted to understand the beers that are lying in Bangalore KSBCL. Do you think they're going to survive for that long? I mean, if they are not doing anything, do you think they're going to give?
No, the beers are going to be okay, till the standard expiry dates which is given to it. But for example, if the last consignment that we have sent was in February, so
right,
that beer is going to be okay till end of July. But in case if unfortunately if the market is not going to be open, so even those beer we can't put into a market. So that is another issue that we have. The beers which are there in the brewery, we can take care of it. But the beer which has already been sent it to KSBCL go down, it's going to be an issue with that. So something has to be done regarding it. Either we might ask KSBCL to give us the excise duty that we have paid on it back, or some other amendments have to be done regarding it. Hopefully, I think this off-date is soon going to start in Bangalore, and then we can just get the stock, kind of out from this KSBCL go down.
After listening to me, I'm just wondering, Thomas, from Bira's perspective, you are available in all the states, in most of the states in the country. Plus, you recently just opened a tap room. What is the status? I mean, you have so many beers, so much of beers lying in your tap room, in the market. What exactly is happening from your end?
Yeah, so we have the way we're looking at it is kind of 3 different levels. We have the beer that's in the market currently. We have the beer that's in our warehouses in the brewery, and then we have the beer that's in the tanks in the brewery. I'm currently not too concerned from a quality perspective about any beer that's already packaged. all of our beers either packaged for 6 months or a year shelf life. And if the beer is, sitting in the warehouse, or if it's in a market somewhere, even if it's not under cold storage, cold storage would be ideal, but we ensure that we brew our beers to, with the expectation that they will not be cold storage. So sort of once they leave the brewery, we're expecting them to be stored warm. So we kind of account for that. Having them sit there doesn't really degrade them any faster, just because someone in the warehouse isn't, dusting off the cases. We're not too worried about the beers. They're pasteurized. They'll probably be okay. Having said that, the longer they sit, the faster they stale, and the sooner we can get those beers into the market and get them sold, the better. The beer that's sitting in the tanks, we have all of our tanks at this point in all of our breweries are full. And, you can start running into problems with beer that's sitting under pressure, cold, with yeast in it. So that's kind of our major concern, especially considering that we aren't really able to send people into our breweries with any relative frequency. So keeping up on our quality checks and understanding really what the condition of that beer is in the brewery is, something that we're not able to really manage day to day. So my major concern right now is about the beer that's in the brewery, not so much about the beer that's in the market.
So just to quantify a little bit, just to approximate, what do you think would be the amount of liters of beer you'll have probably all throughout 3 chains of the distribution, brewery and in the any idea?
That's a lot.
The perspective.
Yeah, so we currently are brewing in 4 breweries across India of different sizes. And as I said, those breweries have almost all of their tanks full. So we are looking at, in our largest brewery, we've got, offhand, we probably have, if I had to put it together, we have thousands of hectoliters of beer. I think we're looking at least 8,000 in one of our breweries, another 4 is sitting in another brewery. So, we're thousands and thousands of liters that we're, worried about at this point, sitting in the brewery. So.
Well, that's a very big number.
The sooner we can get in there, the sooner we can get in there, the better. The better I'll be sleeping, that's for sure. So.
That's a big number to worry about right now, and we were just talking about from microbrewery perspective, it was 600,000 liters that we were talking, and Bira itself in another segment has one brewery has more than 800,000 liters, which is a huge number. So
hectoliters, yeah. Yep.
Microbrewery, what are you guys? I think you also have around 20,000 liters of beer. What's your project? Are you draining it? Is it still in the tanks? Are you waiting for something? Shelly, can you hear me?
Yeah. Hey guys. So in Maharashtra, we currently have about 1.5 lakh liters approximately. Like I'm talking about all the microbreweries combined. The good news is that if it is packaged well and it's sitting in your BBTs, it's under a CO2 blanket, it's kept cold, then we think that it should be good for say another 2-3 months at least. In terms of quality, yes, there'll be a degradation in quality in terms of taste and flavor, but I don't see a reason to drain it right away. For beers that are sitting in fermenters, there is a concern because it's sitting on yeast, and if the yeast starts autolyzing, then the beer will have to be drained. And as Thomas said, that it's difficult to get people in to do anything about it either. Like, we can't send brewers or anybody to the breweries to be able to drain out the yeast or filter the beer out or anything like that. So as of now, I don't think we are panicking to drain out the beers. But today we heard that there is news that at least Pune and Bombay, which are hotspots, the lockdown will be extended till at least June end. And those kind of scenarios, we are looking at draining a bunch of beer because even after the lockdown, I don't know if F&B operations will be allowed to start. And that's look. So we are looking at almost now. If July is a wipeout, uh, June, July is a wipeout. We are looking at maybe a September, October, November type time frame. So we are already say 2 months in the lockdown. So the beers, most of the fresh beers are about 2 months old anyways. I think if they were packaged well and they don't get infected, and uh, at max the taste will deteriorate, some oxidation will happen, but they'll still be good to drink. I would imagine that they'll be still better than an imported craft beer that's coming from say Europe or US in a ship, um, not kept cold, and it gets oxidized, so that's the kind of comparison we have started doing now. um, but it'll still be good to drink. Yeah, but we don't have much time. If we don't see movement in the next say 2 months or so, it's a high possibility that all the stocks will have to be drained out and then replenished somehow.
Right. Amar, from we've heard from the beer's perspective, you can give us the little input about your cidery. What is happening from, because can we keep cider for that long? You're also maintaining that. You're also handling Ministry of Beers in Delhi, in
Yeah,
Gurgaon. What are
yeah,
you doing?
yeah. Yeah, there are two segments that I handle. There is one bottle segment which I do it in Sikera ciders. Okay, now the ciders that we make is like 9%, and we are a boutique winery. We don't have such a big capacity, and we make some craft wines, and we have a limited stock. We had the limited stock, okay, and most of them, you know how Haryana works, okay. The demand of any an alcoholic beverage ends in February, okay. No other no these distributors and the retailers fix the stock, because the auction has to be done and a lot of legal processes there. No one is sure that who's going to get the license authorities and all that, so they don't pick the stock. So we were like limited stock, and but yes, we have like 18,000 liters lying in our tanks, and that is a big deal. Okay, that's the inside the tanks our. Okay, and now there are like few cases, there are few hundred cases lying in our warehouses also. With 9% wine, it's the shelf life is good. Okay, I'm not worried about the shelf life of the ciders because it's 9%. It's well packaged, pasteurized, and things like that. But yes, I'm worried about the beers. Okay, we were entering into summers. Okay, we were brewing in February and all that. Okay, and most of my beers were focused towards the summer side, so they were very pale in color. A lot of pale malts was used,
Yes, sir.
so they don't have that big shelf life. Okay, so yeah, my winter beers, strong beers, and all those very malty beers which have the bigger shelf life, which can you can keep it for 8 months, no problem in your BBTs also. Yeah, so that's the biggest problem, and even means maintenance is an issue right now, because here and there it happens like okay, the chiller tripped and all that. So we have a maintenance guy in our brewery staying there to look after the thing. Okay, so as of now it looks good, but as Shally said, means we are also okay with 2 months figure, not more than that.
Right.
Yeah.
Amit, I wanted to ask you, since there are a lot of people that I listen to, a lot of people ask online, what happens to, just for our audience, for everybody is curious to know, there are beers with a lot of hops in it, a lot of double IPAs. I think most of the breweries have made these kind of beers. So does flavor really deteriorate if the beers are kept for that long? I'll just simplify it. June 1, will I be able to drink double IPA that you have brewed in one of the breweries that you have? Will it taste
So,
great?
what I do many times before, whenever we were making IPAs for Gurgaon, and IPAs don't really sell well in Gurgaon as well. So we used to uphold our dry hopping. So that is the best practice. Don't dry hop your beer. Like what we did is we didn't dry hop double IPA yet. So I'm hoping that once the lockdown is lifted and we can dry hop this beer, I hope we can at least come close to some characters in terms of aromatics, but definitely the bitterness would have gone down. Some of the oxidation will definitely set in eventually, because the beer's been sitting for quite some time, and your head retention also suffers as the days goes by. So we can maybe we can salvage the beer, but it is definitely not going to taste the same. Yeah.
I would like to add regarding this, Ishan. Sorry.
Yeah.
So basically, we're talking about IPAs. So you can just categorize the beer style into two categories at the moment. Roughly, the beers those who age well and the beers which do not age well. Unfortunately, in India, almost 40 to 50% of overall beer which are made in microbreweries are your wheat beers and your Hefeweizens. So that is a concern over here, because these beers, with the extended maturation, will go clear. At the same time, this, a signature phenolic aroma of these beers will also like fade up. If you're looking at a Belgian wheat, I think this citrus, coriander aromas will also fade with time. So I think we don't really have to throw them at the moment, but with time, I think like you can always infuse these beers again with all the herbs and spices and whatever has been used, and like just do a kind of an experiment before draining the beer. Regarding IPAs, I have two tanks of 8 finger ready sitting, in a maturation now. One of them is dry hopped, another one is not dry hopped, because when we came to know it's going to be lockdown, so we deliberately haven't dry hopped the second batch. But the first batch, the aroma of that beer is still okay till date. If you maintain the temperature and if the counter pressure is effective, the only thing that happened to it is like your hop aroma will deteriorate. But I think like again re-hopping it can be considered. And another style that we brew is a Saint and Senna, which is a Belgium double, and it's very common for doubles to like mature it for for 4 to 5 months. So I think that beer is definitely going to come out well. Right,
That's
Ishan?
definitely a silver lining for sure.
I had a point which is sort of unrelated to the taste of the beer. What we should also remember is that there is a big cost to keeping beers cold,
Yeah, definitely.
and that cost is adding up every day, every month, without any revenues. So small businesses are going to make that decision also. Like, let's say our beer is perfect after 4 months, but the cost of keeping it perfect, keeping it cold, and all the electricity and the utility, is that worth it? Because then that beer might not even be viable to sell. So I just wanted to bring that point out that yes, I think we have a few more months where a lot of the beer can be salvaged, and it will be fit to drink. It may not be as good as people would want it to be, but there is also a cost that is getting added up to every liter over time.
No, I totally agree with this. I'll just add a little bit about this. What we did in Gurgaon is we just calculated what is the cost to keep the brewery on, and if considering we don't open till June, is it worth it keeping the beer till that long? And I think 80% of our breweries have drained the beer. We have not kept it on because we thought it was just not viable. We can't even access the brewery, and just keeping the lights on, putting in the electricity bill was not a good option at all. So we just decided to do that. And it is unfortunate, but this is how it has to be now. So things are changing. Karthik, wanted to know from you, like we said, we've discussed about the hop flavors in the beer, but there are going to be a lot of changes in the beer body. There are a lot other changes that are going to happen apart from the normal hoppy beers. What do you think will be the major impact for the beer if it survived till if the lockdown is till June for FNB?
Well, just to add to what Ash was saying, right? No matter how hard we try as brewers, whether we are kegging, bottling, or even putting it into PPTs, uh, to get all of the oxygen out is not possible. At some percentage of it is always going to stay back in the tank or whatever container that we're putting it into, and that over time will lead to oxidization. Now, again, like what Ash pointed out, your dark Belgian ales might be able to survive that. Lagers, to an extent, would probably be able to survive as well, but definitely loss of aromas in your IPAs. Uh, just I'm not really sure how much you could try and salvage your wit beers by reinfusing it with whatever flavors or anything of that sort. Hefeweizens will be crystal Weizens. So end of the day, they will all not be what they were meant to be. And each business will definitely have to, go back, check. We will also have to go back to the brewery, taste every beer, and see if it is worth or the bar that we set ourselves to when we're delivering craft beer is to always put quality out there. And each of us will have to go back and check beer by beer and take a call if any of these would be worthy of being served to our customers. Of course, the business impact has already been quite detrimental, and in fact, at Brew Sky, we've already decided that, like you mentioned, the cost of running our chillers was just not worth keeping the beers in the tank. So we have beers in cold storage, which are ready to be dispensed, but the ones that were sitting in the fermenter have been drained out. So there'll definitely be effects when it comes to bodies of the beer, or it's very specific to every style. Uh, they will be detrimental and definitely not what the brewer intended. So we will have to just go back and see how these beers are whenever it is when we open.
I would like to just add one thing is that I think all the microbrewers in India are going through this phase for the first time in their life. So I think this is quite a learning curve for all of us to see how each and every different recipe has actually reacted to aging, and that would be an interesting thing to learn. I mean, a time like this has come for each one of us, so I think we can learn something from it as well.
Definitely, I
I
usually.
think we can also, I think we can learn from other industries as well. I mean, if you look at beer compared to wine or spirits, beer has a very, very strong connotation with consistency. The consumer really expects the beer brand to taste the same every time. But in terms of how we process it, we are doing batch by batch processing. And if you look at a lot of wine and spirit producers, they don't do that. They base all of their production off of blending to achieve their consistency, because they're dealing with, for example, wine people, they're dealing with harvest inconsistencies and things like that. So, I wonder if now as brewers, I know I'm certainly thinking about this, is how do I change my production to be a little more flexible, where I am potentially relying a little bit more on blending. I know it's definitely a challenge with smaller brewers who have very limited tank capacity, but I think moving towards a model where you're able to potentially blend more to reach your target brand allows you to weather these kind of market shocks a lot better. So I think it's, a lot of things are going to change coming out of this, and I think people are going to be thinking about a lot of different ways, not just the types of recipes they're brewing, but also processing methods for how we can be more flexible.
Thomas, how is it going to change in terms of post-COVID, in terms of sanitization, in terms of maintenance of the breweries? Do you think, like I was just reading that if the government allows the production, maybe this is going to happen for production breweries to begin with 50% of the man-force. What are the steps? Do you know? Could you tell us what are the things that you guys will be doing to maintain that it doesn't, the sanitation and all the things are improved during this time?
Yeah, so FSSAI has given some pretty clear guidelines as to what they're going to be checking up on in facilities, and they did make it clear that they will be checking. So we want to make sure that we're complying. But in our breweries, our breweries are a little bit larger, so we have a lot of kind of entrained facilities there. So we have water treatment plants, we have refrigeration plants, we have steam generation, we have kind of a compound. So on any given day, depending on the brewery, we have between 100 and 150 people in there running the warehouse, logistics, the actual brewing operation, producing steam, etc. So, that's not going to happen anymore. We're definitely not going to be having that many people in the breweries anymore, just because they're going to be, ensuring social distancing. I think our number one sort of defense against making sure that our guys coming into the breweries don't get sick is social distancing. So just ensuring that there are as few people in the brewery as necessary to continue operation. But we're also doing things like, ensuring every 2 hours, ensuring sanitation of, every person has to sanitize themselves as well as their workspace. We're going to be doing things like sanitation of the environment. So we're getting some foggers and some foamers and things like that to make sure that we're actually fogging the area. And then there's also, ensuring that you're doing a good job of quarantining the people who are coming into the facility who are not your direct employees. So, third-party people who are dropping off raw materials, taking your beer away, ensuring that those people are minimizing, sort of direct impact with, or direct sort of as little interaction between those people and the people who work in the brewery as possible, and just ensuring that every raw material coming in and every raw material going out is safe. So there's a huge amount that we're doing. Mostly it's going to be around providing the correct PPE, providing the correct chemicals for sanitizing the equipment and also the people. But above all, it's training, training, ensuring that people understand how the disease spreads and how to minimize it, and really focusing on ensuring that people have adequate training to keep them safe at work.
Right, thanks. Gautam, wanted to know from you, see, we all been working on getting the growlers. We've been all representing the next step is growlers for us, growlers for us. We've been thinking. First question to you is, do you have a growler at home? And if you have, can you show it to everybody what growler is? A lot of people, when I discuss, they ask me what.
I actually have water filled in a growler. Should I carry a growler and bring it back in a second?
Why don't you just quickly get it for us? We will just hang on for you. You have it in like 10 seconds. Don't let us wait for that much.
I'll just do that.
Because I think Craft Brewer Association is seriously considering going to the government and talking about growlers. Yesterday also we discussed, Rahul Singh and other panelists decided to have a nation level campaign where this is the time where we go and go to the market and tell people that you can buy from restaurants, microbreweries directly, and growler is the way forward for us. And if we don't do it now, there is no better time than today's thing. So let's this for perspective.
Yeah, that's a growler. That's a 1 liter growler. I just have water in it right now. So
is that water or is that vodka?
No, I couldn't distill anything, so it's just water.
Anyways, so Ishan, I just wanted to add to that. That is really the push that a lot of the breweries in different states are trying. Definitely, Maharashtra is way ahead. We have already made representations to the relevant authorities. We have a chapter of the Craft Beer Association in Maharashtra called MCBIA. We have given them a very detailed presentation on where our industry is heading, what is a growler, how do you sanitize growlers, how can growlers help in terms of volume sales, what should be the taxation structure around it, and things like those. So, that is, earlier we were pushing it because we were thinking that will give us at least some bump in sales, like maybe a 10, 15, 20% bump in sales. But now it has become a matter of survival. And growlers might be the format that we can sell for maybe even the coming 6, 7, 8, 9 months, or maybe even a year. Because who knows if people will actually want to sit in a restaurant to drink your finely crafted beverage, as opposed to the safety of their homes. So that push is there, and I would encourage all state, because excise is a state subject. Unfortunately, what happens in Maharashtra has no bearing on what happens in a Karnataka or a Punjab or a Delhi or a Haryana. I would really encourage local brewery associations in every state to start pushing this. There's a lot of information that we have generated. We have a very detailed presentation that I'm sure our chapter would love to share with you guys, that you can use as a template, and maybe build on it to reach out to your excise people and your basically the excise ministry,
No,
because
we have applied. Yeah, we have also applied in Delhi that growler should be allowed. Yeah, I think growler is the only resolution that I see that might give us a little cushion at the survivability point.
So
Mhm.
I
Yeah,
was
I'm really happy to hear this conversation going on because I absolutely agree. And I don't think we should necessarily stop at growlers. Um, yeah, I'm from the United States. A lot of my friends who are brewers back in the United States, their breweries are surviving purely off of takeaway. So I think we should be able to fill growlers and send them with people, even filling our own 6-packs of cans and selling them directly from our locations. E-commerce, I think e-commerce is the way of the future for all industries. After this, I think retail is really going to be struggling. And the comeback of retail is going to be very slow. People aren't going to want to be going out to malls and going to restaurants and going to bars. It's going to be very slow. And for industries like ours to survive, I really think if we could put together a national effort of all specialty craft brewers and really get together and lobby the government together, that's the only way that this is going to happen. And I don't think we should be stopping at growlers. I think we should push for being able to sell beer from a refrigerator behind your bar in a 6-pack directly to the consumer for them to take home and walk away. Why have the middleman? Why not sell directly to consumers?
So yeah, that's what was happening in Vietnam. Like I was speaking to my friends at Pasture Street, and so there was so I think even Bira is in Vietnam, and they're doing the same thing over there too. They're doing a lot of home deliveries and online sales. So though the breweries are not making a lot of money like they used to make before, or but still the business is running. Though the production is not high right now, there is some level of sales also happening over there. And then about but like maybe a week ago, I was speaking to brewers in Palestine. And then a few days ago, I was speaking to brewers in Syria. And they're allowed to deliver beer home.
No,
And
India is the only country. Means
yeah,
if you see, India is
yeah,
the only country where the alcohol is for delivering alcohol, it's banned.
yeah. Till about, I think, a day before or something before the month of Ramadan started, even Malaysia was allowing online sales. And I'm really like curious about why our policies are so old. I can't even say old school in a nice way. Um, I wouldn't even like to mention which era, but yeah, they're pretty old. And there's supposed to be some change in those things. Otherwise, it's not really going to help the industry in any way.
It's also, it's a win-win. The
Yeah,
government gets, most state governments get 35% of their income is from excise off alcohol.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
In a
Somewhere around
situation where
15 to
the government
20%.
needs money, we're looking at a global pandemic. The government has a lot of things it needs to fund right now, and they've essentially cut off 35% of their funding by not allowing us to operate.
Yeah.
So it helps. It's a win for us. It's a win for the government, and it's a win for the public as well.
Ishan, regarding the growlers, I would like to add some points over here. So just to sell a growler, it's very important to have growlers. At the moment, I don't think India will be having any stock of growlers, with the glass manufacturers.
I have, don't worry.
Yeah, there's one person in Gurgaon. He's actually making them.
Okay.
I also think that's an easy problem to solve, right?
Yeah, that's an easy problem. A lot of people will be up for business. And yeah, I was even thinking about crowlers because a few places in Vietnam have crowlers too. But I think crowlers is the next step we can take because training people to fill in crowlers is very important. Yeah. And if the staff at a brew pub or a place like that is undertrained to fill in a growler, there's a lot of headspace. and then packaging becomes an issue while seaming, etc. And then with a growler, it's very important that when we sell them a growler, we explain to the customer about how to handle the growler. We don't want them to leave the growler in the car for a couple of days and then complain
It'll
that
explode.
and
And
or growler
seriously,
blows up in the car or something like that. That's also
That was actually my next question to Amit. Is Growler and Crowler safe, Amit? Do you think this? We are all talking about future, but do you think, are we ready for it? Do we have the infrastructure? Do people know about it? Is it the right thing to do?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the next step for craft breweries to go into, because if you look at the number of pub breweries that we have in India are much more than the microbreweries.
Yeah.
So yeah, getting a retail license is a pain. So I think this is quite a good thing to do, because there are already so many pub breweries installed, and these can now start operating as a kind of microbrewery model where you can actually help distribute your beer. I think crawlers are the best way to go for. I mean, if you can get 500 ml cans and you can crawl them, I think that is, and that the beer stays um, you know protected from oxygen, and it's from the light as well, and you can store it for quite a long time. So I think, yeah, crawlers should be a number one priority, I think, afterwards.
And talking about public education, right? Like I think that will happen on the go. Once we make all of this available for our customers to experience, to take away, the do's and don'ts are something that just come hand in hand, and that's not something that we need to worry too much about it. What we really do need to worry about is actually getting this things that we're talking about into action, and work with the authorities to try and bring about that change, which would enable us to do these
and yeah,
growlers and crawlers.
just to add to that, like as we're speaking about growlers, like someone new coming to business new and wants to run a brew pub or something like that, it'll be much easier for them to run a place with a smaller capacity, where they think about more sales going down to people's places, or pickup service or something like that, because rentals are usually very high in cities in India, and we can see many more people coming into the business with smaller investments, and that is going to actually overall improve the competition and the variety we get in India, and it's going to help on a bigger scale in that way, and it's obviously going to hire more people also into the business.
Yeah, like Thomas mentioned, why stop at growlers? We should be taking this opportunity to maybe even push for nano breweries, which would drive a lot more enthusiastic entrepreneurs who might be wanting to get into the craft beer game, and come up with their own ideas to challenge what we've been doing. That's the way forward for the industry to, thrive on innovation, because that's why we're in it. It's we're crafting a product from scratch and not really just going with something that's without taking any names, mass market, what we call a mass market beer. So driving innovation, the things that are true to craft will truly be brought to the forefront when we can drive innovation, and the way to do that would be to bring in more players.
Guys,
Absolutely.
just to put a
The
little
more
bit,
people we can reach, the better.
just to put a little bit of a break on your imagination, wild imagination right now. Unfortunately, and maybe I don't think I'm mistaken, but prohibition is enshrined in our constitution,
yes.
so we can only do so much. The fact that we are even able to sell beer right now is, is a lot.
No,
Under
means
prohibition, we are able to sell under prohibition.
I think it's about I want to add something. Okay, I think this is about surviving right now. Okay,
Yeah.
means this is about creating a bottom line, creating something which don't add to the bottom line. Okay, and making something which doesn't create losses right now. Okay, so existing of the
Yeah,
brewery is in
exactly.
question.
Umar, I
Yeah,
totally agree with you. Like, for example, right
yeah,
now it is absolutely about survival. Uh,
yeah,
there are staff that need to be paid. There are utilities that need to be
exactly.
paid. You can't get around that. And a good example is as a general restaurant, which already has a kitchen, so they can always switch to doing food deliveries and at least have something going. Now for a brewery, it would be similar to being able to do growler deliveries, right? And that is what we are pushing for. We are trying to not complicate this, because we know that even growlers is a big deal for the government to say, okay. I mean, I'm sure it must be like not even among the top 1,000 things that the government is thinking of right now, because they
we
have
need
so
to,
much shit to handle.
yeah.
uh, but
I think for COVID-19, we need to just bring down the priorities and just point out one or two things that we need on immediate basis to get the relief from the
yeah,
government.
just concentrate on the one thing that can just the high probability of happening, which will help us at least get some cash going.
Yes.
Look, we
Right
are
now,
at the edge.
survival is the most important
Yeah,
thing.
And I think
yeah,
the
we are at
government
the
also
edge.
needs the revenue right now more than any other time to build healthcare. Yes, sir.
Right. So,
Yeah,
just some we before we get into the last segment of the whole session, I wanted during the whole conversation, Gautam, you mentioned that Syria has the growler policy. I
Yeah.
want you Can you give me 3 or 4 examples like that so that we can also keep these examples in a representation, keep this in mind, probably put this as a highlighted point. And if these countries can have it, why can't India? So I just want 2 or 3 examples from you.
Vietnam has got a very booming craft beer industry, and they make exceptionally nice beers. So what I've noticed over there is everyone during the crisis, they were selling growlers, getting them delivered at home. They were running the business, but obviously not to the same volumes they were used to earlier. Lower volumes, but still there was some cash flow in the business. It's not something like completely stuck up where no one has any idea what the government is going to say next. Then the other example of Syria, speaking about Syria, so people can actually go down to the brewery, maintain social distance, and pick up a 6 pack or a growler or something like that, or I think even like one of those small cake dispensers, like with the small CO2 cartridges. And even Vietnam, a few breweries in Vietnam also did that. And then Palestine, the same way. It's always been allowed, you can go pick up a 6 pack and take it back home. And overall, they sell more volume, and it reduces the amount of people being outside. So I think looking forward, if social distancing is going to be like the general norm of society, this is the way to go about things. And it's high time policymakers and policies are changed in this country, not only in one state, in every state. And so there are a lot of examples from the US, etc., and other kind of beer drinking countries where they've done it over and over for so long, and things have been working great for them. Yep, that's about it.
And consider the whole supply chain as well. I mean, we are fundamentally an agricultural product, and I don't know about you guys, but we buy for all of our beers with wheat, and then we buy our wheat directly from Indian farmers. And every single batch of beer that we make, that wheat needs to get procured from farmers in India. It needs to then go to an Indian malt house and gets malted, and then it comes to us through an Indian shipping company. So, there's so many jobs along the entire supply chain, so many people that we can put to work, and so much volume or value that can be created through the entire supply chain.
Revenue is missing out. I wonder how policy makers are going to be paid in the future.
no, that's a big concern. That's a no. The policy makers is one part. The other part is that the breweries have paid their advance excise.
Excise duties.
Okay, breweries excise duty, GST, VAT. We pay TCS. We pay everything. You name the tax, we pay. Okay, you name the type of this tax collection thing. We do it. Okay, and we employ from the uneducated person, and there are people, I am graduate and things like that from the abroad, and everyone who's employed in the microbrewery and the brewing field. Okay, so this field caters from generating revenue to generating employment. Okay, now the point what I'm making here is that this industry is suffering. Okay, 15 to 20% revenue that comes to government, state government, and that's their mostly their only revenue. GST is one of the biggest, but yes, that's the revenue that is coming to state government, and the state government are the whole and soul to create a policy. Okay, now they need to think like that. Ki, okay, FSSAI will come after a month and say that ki, okay, we have a shelf life for 1 year, 1 month only. Okay, and then we're gonna have a new debate. They have to act right now.
But it's pretty difficult to get through how they think.
No,
Because it's
exactly,
like
exactly.
yesterday we were speaking about it, that it's more of a herd mentality. People exactly want to copy what the other state is doing instead of
Yeah.
making policies according to how socially, so how like the social fabric of every state differs. It should be like that instead of just cut, copy, paste.
Oh,
Right. So
exactly, exactly. Means
doing the last segment, asking the last question for all of us. We are already 50 minutes down. Anita?
Yes. We have discussed a lot of issues and challenges now. I just wanted to understand from all of you how you all have utilized the lockdown period and what suggestions do you have for the young brewers in terms of continued education.
I'm reading a lot about the prohibition era.
So we are doing a couple of things. I mean, we are going through the third phase of what is called, when what happens when somebody dies, you go through 5 phases of mourning, right? So we are at the third phase right now. What we are doing right now is figuring out how to prepare ourselves if and when we open, because it will not be about us opening, it will be about people wanting to come to us. So, all the SOPs, right from the vendors coming in, how do you make sure that they don't spread you the virus, and all the raw material coming in, and how do you treat that? How do you make sure your employees are sanitary and there is no, nobody brings in the infection? How do you also make your customers feel comfortable about um, so the distancing between tables and the air flows around the uh, menus, physical menus will probably go away because nobody wants to touch a menu that 50 other people have touched. So a lot of things to think about, but honestly, these are all things we are thinking about because we have nothing else to do right now. And there is so much uncertainty. So also dealing with the uncertainty, I guess the best way to deal with uncertainty is to keep you busy in something or the other. We are really thinking a lot about post-COVID lockdown, and that too, like when we are able to open, and then a year post that. It could be that maybe uh, when a cure is found, all this will sort of fizzle out. But there'll be a long time before that. So in the interim, what do you do? And a lot of people in the industry, in at least we have an association in Maharashtra, we talk very often. So most of the people are just thinking about that, like how do we change restaurant operations where people want to come to us, they feel safe and they are safe, because for brands which are very customer focusing, even if you have one infection coming out of your place, you are gone. So that is how we are kind of trying to keep busy right now.
I have actually spent a time, kind of building up a standard operating procedure, which are altered, and considering all these things, I would like to put some points. A personal hygiene of your employees, periodic monitoring of their health and health checkups has to be included. Also, like simple thing is like monitoring fever when they come at the gate. So these are the things that we actually have to like include. Minimize crowding. So I've got 2 senior brewers. I have put them into a schedule where both of them never see each other. So if both of them are going to, fell ill, everything will be stopped. So these kind of things, you have to kind of implement from here onwards.
Thomas, you have anything to add?
yes, means
Yeah, I think.
oh, okay, yeah. Sorry, I thought that it's
No, go ahead. Go ahead, please.
okay. So means even though this lockdown, this coronavirus, we are closed for means we are almost closed for almost 2 months. Okay, even starting up a microbrewery, even from starting from today, is a cost. Okay, means it's not like you open and then you have everything over there. It's an additional cost that will incur to a restaurant, to a microbrewery, or whatever it is. That also is something which is a big thing. Okay, now few things that we were discussing, the panel was discussing yesterday, and I wasn't the panelist. I would like to add right now, okay, what we should ask the government and things like that, okay, is the support from the bank, a system where this is about the cash flow. This is not about the money. This is about the cash flow. Means you need cash flow where you can operate the brewery. Quality can be maintained when there is customer. Okay, the beer can be made when there are customer, and the customer will only come when there is a brewery, when there is a good beers over there. Okay, and so means yeah, means one thing that I want to add from yesterday's thing is the support from the bank, that is OD, okay, overdrafting system that has to be given to any restaurant to survive, okay, to pay the salaries, to pay the overheads, where you have, and the next thing is the what do you call it? Uh, that VAT and GST ka redemptions that you take, okay, which is not for the alcohol industry. Okay, these are the two things which has to be supported from the restaurant and plus from the microbrewery industry to the government, that okay, at least till this COVID, give us this recovery of VAT uh, and on GST also. Okay, so these are the two things that I wanted to add.
Okay. Karthik, what would you like to say?
No matter how experienced we are in the industry, to answer your question for, how do new budding brewers learn or anything, no matter how experienced we are in the industry, there's absolutely no end to learning. Every day we walk into the brewery, we are still learning something. But we're lucky that we live in this day and age where, information is available on our fingertips. There shouldn't be any stop to reading up about anything that is related to brewing. There are a lot of webinars that are happening, that are being organized by people that we know, who are trying to keep our education going, whether it's about learning about the cultivation of hops, or trying to get a deeper understanding of how malting works, which some of us brewers, myself included, would have. I haven't really put too much thought into how does the malt itself, the processing or the yeast processing itself, happen before it comes to somebody like me, right? So this is a great opportunity for young brewers to spend their time learning as much as possible, and use all the technology that is available at hand to put into use.
Guys, I would like to answer one question. This is very interesting. A little, let's make it a little controversial over here.
You love that, Shelly.
There's a question.
You love controversy.
Will regular industry and retail outlets oppose craft breweries selling growlers? Yeah, they will. I'm pretty sure Bira will be the first one to do that. Thomas, we'll hear from you later. Because see, it's competition for them, right? I mean, we are selling directly to customers, while these guys have to go through the three-tier model. They have to give to a distributor, then retailer, then consumer, right? So they might look at it as unfair, but we are a different industry from the larger breweries. We are not the same. We are artisanal. We are much smaller. Our volumes are completely different. Our cost of production is completely different. So, in short, yes, they will oppose it for sure. But it is all to do with the end consumer. If the end consumer wants a beer, the government will, that opposition will not matter, right? Because if there is demand for people wanting to buy an Independence or a Kadak or any other, say, craft beer for a premium, and they want it. then that is enough for us to fight that battle. And I feel that there is enough demand. I mean, with the mushrooming of microbreweries in India right now, I think we have like 300 or so in just 5-6 years, hardly, with all the difficulties that are in launching microbreweries. There is demand, and so we will fight that battle, and it will happen. At the end of the day, it's competition, whether whether it's between a kingfisher and an independence, but competition is competition. At the same time, I feel like we have very different categories, so it's not an apples to apples competition. It's more like an apples to orange competition.
I would like to add certain points over here for regarding this.
Guys, this
So
becomes
whenever
very
a brewery,
controversial thing, Ash, Shelly, everything, or we just need to know that this is COVID-19 and we, at this point of time, we just need to figure out a way to get into retail and do that. We don't know who's competition right now. Everybody is talking about survivals.
Absolutely agree, man. Right now, it's like how do you
Yes.
get to your next meal?
And even in the world, there have been examples where everybody have coexisted, and it can become a good craft beer movement where we all can stand together and work for a common cause. Don't know who's small, who's big, but let's just at least get the proposal out. So just wanted to update. Yeah, Ash, please.
Yeah. So actually, like whenever we are approaching to the excise commissioner, I think that the word temporary amendments should be there. If you're looking for a permanent one, the chances of we getting it are very less. So if you're going to ask them for like a certain period of time, the growler should be allowed. And if you just do that, then only I think they're going to like listen to us. If you're looking for a permanent amendment, then chances are very less. That's what I think.
Someone just asked me, like, why am I comparing countries like Syria and Palestine and not like about the growler policy and not the UK or the US or the other beer-friendly countries? So I think our policies, Syria and Palestine have better policies being a war-torn country and having so many issues for so long than our policies. And that's the reason I wanted to compare those countries and not compare the countries which already had something in place. I think it should be an eye-opener to policymakers about thinking how to, if they want to be on a more they want to take a more developed approach to this, or something in the same way. Or actually, like, no countries actually, I don't know a country which is not allowing growlers, like, which is known for beer.
Guys, we've reached the end of our segment. It's almost an hour, and we've reached the question answer section. We have shortlisted 2 or 3 questions which we would like to ask our panelists. So, we wanted to ask Thomas, since he mentioned about blending. There's a attendee who has asked, how can blending help such risk management easier? So, would you like to tell something about it?
Yeah, sure. So if you have a tank full of beer and you're not happy with the quality of that tank of beer, let's say you think it's slightly oxidized. And obviously, if you reach a certain point where the beer quality is such that you don't want to drink it in any amount, that goes to the drain, no questions asked. But blending allows you to, instead of just processing one batch of beer and then pushing it through all the different process steps and then putting that into a bright tank and packaging it, every single mistake that is made along the way in producing that beer will affect that final product cumulatively. If you are in a situation where you've, say, maybe made 2 or 3 mistakes in one beer, you can then take a small portion of that beer and blend it into a larger tank. That allows you, to the point where that flaw is no longer perceptible. That allows you to essentially not waste beer that you would otherwise have to waste. So if you're only packaging the beer in its complete batch-wise, end quality, any mistake that you make through that process is going to show itself in the final product. So if you can take a small portion of that and blend it away instead of wasting it, it's better for ensuring that you don't end up in a situation like a lot of people here are today, where they have beer that they have to dump down the drain and lose a huge amount of money. So,
yeah, thanks, Thomas. This next question is for Amar. Usually, everybody asks this question to Amar because he's considered as the oldest guy in the craft beer industry, since he also carried a tag of youngest brewer at one point of time.
Yeah, that's
But
what I wanted to say. Yeah, yeah. I
what is
used
your
to be the
advice
youngest.
who wish to start a microbrewery in coming months? I'm sure he's your client already.
No advice about that. Okay, seriously, means this sector is facing a lot of pain. Okay, don't means as an investor, if you want to invest something, don't invest in that. Okay, there is survivability of microbrewery. There is a restaurant, hospitality sector, which is immensely in in on hard water. Okay, it's not happening right now. Me and Ishan was discussing over the phone. This is happening since very long time. Okay, I mean from demonetization 2016, I guess 15 16 demonetization. Then GST came in. Then at the last means you see means what happened between NRAI and these online platforms. This shows the desperation what the profitability and the lower margin what restaurant goes through. Okay, so wait for some time, give it a year. Okay, see where this is going, and then invest something.
So Amar brings up a very good point. It's not that we got bamboozled with this COVID thing. The whole industry, F&B and also craft beer, microbreweries and all, last 1.5 years have been absolutely terrible for us. My own company, for example, 2019 was as bad as the year we opened, which was 2015. So we saw no growth. We actually went negative, and that is true for a lot of microbreweries. So it's been already tough, and then COVID just was the kind of uh, I don't want to call a nail in the coffin because we are still slightly alive. But yeah, it's been tough. Anyways, this gentleman who is asking about investment in a microbrewery, I do congratulate his chutzpah of wanting to invest in a microbrewery during COVID. So I do congratulate his gumption. But
Yeah,
yeah, I would also agree that
After the session.
please wait
you
6
get in
months.
touch with me.
All right, guys. I think this is where the last of our segment. Everybody has been really great. Thanks for the great insights. Anita will do the closing for this. Just quickly, from each one of us, one thing I wanted to ask: what book or what website or anything would you recommend for our viewers to go back and learn? Just one book or one word. Starting from Ash, can you recommend one book for people which is easily available?
A book you're saying?
Yeah, book or any website that one should follow. Right now, we are sitting at home. We can read about beers.
Well, I think is it a Karthik or Gautam? They have got a kind of like almost 1 TB of like PDFs available. So yeah, I would go for Handbook of Brewing by Graham Stewart. Because it's kind of a handbook, and then you can just go through it, and it will take you almost 4 months to read it. Completely. So a big book, I would suggest.
I would also request you to please type it on the comment section so that people can also later on Google it. Karthik, what would you recommend?
Definitely for somebody who has absolutely no idea about starting to brew, then Joy of Home Brewing by Charlie Papazian and How to Brew by John Palmer. Those are quite literally the Bibles for the brewing world. But somebody who's, I would say, who has a fair idea, designing great beers is
Ray
Andy
Daniels.
Mosher.
Ray Daniels. Designing great beers is
Yeah.
Ray Daniels.
Yeah, Ray Daniels, correct. So, Designing Great Beers is another great book that I would recommend to somebody who's, intermediate or something of that sort. And for the hardcore geeks, there are quite a few of them which you can really dig deep to get into one specific aspect of brewing and go based to neck down in.
Read the law along with that also.
Thomas, we see a lot of books behind you. What would you recommend us?
I was looking behind because I knew I got to find one. I'll give you 3 recommendations. One for technical brewers. Technical brewers, you got to get this one. This is Technology, Brewing, and Malting. It's the VLB textbook. So this is, I think, the greatest book for beer brewers, technical beer brewers. For people who are interested in starting a brewery, I would recommend Brewing Up a Business by Sam Calagione. He's the guy who started Dogfish Head. And then for this, I was looking at my bookcase and I got one that's a little bit of a wild card. For anyone who's more interested in business strategy in general, this book is written by Frederick the Great. It's called Instructions for His Generals, and it's a very interesting book about how to lead. So we need good leadership right now from our business leaders and from our government as well. So that would be a leadership book that I would recommend.
Shelly, what would you recommend?
If I have to recommend, I don't read much, man, anymore. But one blog site which I used to follow a lot as a home brewer was tastybrew.com. And what it has is a combination of recipes from absolutely ad hoc people who know nothing and the recipes make no sense, all the way to recipes that have won gold medals at, say, the craft beer competitions in the US, you know. So when you are researching a recipe, it's a great resource because you get a lot of variation and there are tasting notes and things like those. So for people who are trying to just get their heads around recipe formulation, tastybrew.com is pretty good. In terms of a book, I'll recommend something which is not connected with brewing, but very important, which is branding, which I have no clue of. So I started reading some books. There's a book called The Purple Cow, which is quite fascinating. And it's The Purple Cow, and it's quite fascinating. It's a very quick read. You can read it in a day. But it really tells you about how to build a brand which is not a part of the herd. Like, how do you differentiate yourself? So those are the two I would recommend.
Gautam?
So I was about to say designing great beers, but Karthik also already said that. I'd say the Brewmaster's Table also, if you want to learn a bit about food pairing and beer. It's Brewmaster's Table by Gareth Oliver. And I think he's the master brewer for Brooklyn Brewery. It's a great book, and he speaks about food and beer on every aspect. He talks about what goes well with what. So I got a bit curious about what's the best beer which should go with Indian food. And then I couldn't come out with a decision till now because the Indian food itself is vibrant, and that's how I hope like the Indian beer scene is also in the future, extremely vibrant and new styles, something which is very homegrown. So yeah, read that book for sure. It's a great book.
What do you recommend, Amar?
Okay. So I have written it over the chat. Okay, some radical. There is a Radical Brewing, which is a very good book for when it comes to raw materials and all that. Okay, and then if you wanna learn about basics, then Malt, Hops, Yeast, which is Colin John Palmer. Okay, and one book that I really like is Sacred and Herbal Healing Beers. Okay, that has stories, that has history, that has technology in it. Okay, very good book.
And Amit, what would you recommend?
On mute.
You're on mute.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, I think for someone who is going into different styles, I think BYO runs a very good blog on style profiles. So that is very interesting because it's written by some of the best home brewers and in the country. And I also suggest people that this is a good time for people to come up with innovative stuff because down the line there is a lot of pressure on brewers to cut their production costs. So a lot of time, right now is a good time to explore ingredients that we may have not ever considered before, because as you know, almost everyone is sourcing ingredients from outside India. So I think this is a good time to explore what locally can be used and make some innovative beers.
I have a funny suggestion. If people want to know how stupid our laws are, then please read the the Prohibition Act of 1956, Maharashtra.
Oh yeah.
Bombay Prohibition Act. Huh?
Yeah.
Bombay Prohibition Act, 1956. And
I still have that book. Huh?
no, and the funny story is that when I wanted to get into this, Amar's previous boss, Suketu, Dulali being the pioneer starting all this, Suketu gave me that book as a gift and said, if you can read this, then you do this business, otherwise get out now.
It's 1200 pages, I guess.
Yeah, it's like
No,
that.
it's a big book, but it's absurd. It's absolutely absurd.
What would you recommend, Anita?
I would recommend everybody to come to Brewer World site. And we put a lot of effort to put a lot of articles and bring up whatever this the knowledge which people want to share. So, and I welcome all of you also to share your knowledge through our platform. So I think that will be a good place for everyone to see.
Anita, I must, I have to commend you on the magazine. It is honestly the only alcohol magazine I read in India, because the articles are well written, well researched, and it's one of the things that I read every month.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think before we conclude, I should say that this was a very great session, and both the days put together, I think we had some great insights. And yes, there are definitely different challenges which we need to face, but I think this is the best time for the beer industry to come together. And irrespective of whether it's commercial brewery or craft brewery, I think first we need to talk about the segment itself. This is a category which needs to stand together and fight this battle. And whatever, like I said yesterday, Brewer World is there with you, and whatever support we can do, we are there. We are willing to support you in terms of petition or in terms of bringing up articles or even reaching out to the regulatories and authorities. So please come with us, collaborate with us, and see what best we all can do for this industry.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Great. Cheers, cheers, everyone. Cheers.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Let's
you, everyone.
Yes.
fight going. Yes. Thank you.
Cheers.
To more beers in the future.
Yeah.
Stay in
Cheers.
touch.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye. Cheers.